My husband said our neighbor was a dangerous felon, but when I found out the truth, I realized the real monster was living right next door. My husband and I moved into this quiet suburban neighborhood last spring. Perfect white picket fences, kids riding bikes, the American dream. Everything was perfect until we met our next door neighbor. His name was Mark. This guy was huge, maybe 6 feet 4 inches, arms covered in military tattoos. Never made eye contact when you waved. He kept to himself, worked nights, came home at weird hours. The neighborhood gossip, Brenda from across the street, wasted no time filling me in. She pulled me aside during my first week. Honey, you need to know about that man next door. He just got out of prison for aggravated assault, beat someone nearly to death. My blood went cold. We had a 4-year-old daughter. My husband wanted to call the police immediately. We can't have a violent criminal living next to our family. But I had this rule my grandmother taught me, never judge a book by its cover. Something felt off about the whole situation. A few weeks later, a brutal storm knocked out power to half the neighborhood. I'm looking out my window and see Mark in his backyard, struggling in the dark trying to fix this old generator. My husband was away on business. It was just me and Lily. The perfect chance to be a good neighbor or walk into a trap. I made a thermos of hot coffee and walked over. Mark looked terrified when he saw me coming. Not angry or dangerous, scared. You don't need to do that, he said quietly, barely looking at me. It's just coffee. You look like you could use something warm. He took it with shaky hands. Then he said something that chilled me. You shouldn't be near me. People talk. I prefer to form my own opinions. The next day, my daughter Lily was playing in our backyard when her ball rolled into Mark's yard. I watched through the kitchen window as she ran after it. I nearly had a heart attack seeing my little girl on a violent criminal's property. But Mark just gently rolled the ball back to her and said, "Be careful, sweetheart. Your mom's probably worried." That weekend, my husband was cleaning out our garage when he found an old box of mail delivered to our address by mistake. All addressed to Mark Rodriguez. He was about to throw it away when a photo fell out. It was a young Mark in an army uniform, standing at attention, receiving some kind of medal. Underneath was a letter from a veterans support group. I read the letter and my hands started shaking. It thanked Mark for his courageous testimony in the trial against members of his former unit for war crimes committed in Afghanistan. The letter said his testimony had put away 5 soldiers for assault on civilians. The aggravated assault charge? Mark had fought off 3 of those same soldiers when they jumped him in a parking lot after the trial, trying to intimidate him into changing his testimony. He went to jail for defending himself against war criminals. But here's the part that made me sick. The letter mentioned that the mother of one of the convicted soldiers had been harassing Mark since his release, spreading lies about him to isolate him from any community support. Brenda's last name was Henderson. The convicted soldier's name was Staff Sergeant Ryan Henderson, Brenda's son. I marched straight to Brenda's house and knocked on her door. "We need to talk about Mark." Her face went white when I held up the letter. "You knew the truth this whole time. Your son was convicted of war crimes, and you've been destroying an innocent man's life to cover your shame." She didn't even try to deny it. "My Ryan made one mistake. That man ruined his military career over nothing. Your son assaulted innocent people. Mark was a hero for stopping him." That night, I went to Mark's house with my husband. When I showed him the letter and said, "We know the truth," this massive, tough man broke down crying on his front porch. "Nobody's ever given me a chance," he whispered. "I served my country for 8 years, and all anyone sees is the arrest record." We invited Mark over for dinner the next week. Turns out he's got a master's degree in engineering, volunteers at the animal shelter, and makes the world's best chocolate chip cookies. Brenda moved out of the neighborhood 2 months later. Couldn't handle the other neighbors learning what kind of person she really was.